Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. This time we're taking a look at a deck for this most recent Skirmish season. I do not remember what season it is, but for the Hunted Skirmish season. Today we're looking at Cindra. Skirmish this time around, I believe, is Blitz and Living Legend, but I believe we've covered Living Legend sooner than we've covered any Blitz, so I thought taking a look at Cindra here might be a good idea. Next week we might take a look at a newer or updated hero in the Living Legends format, if I can't think of a classic constructed deck to go with, but this is the deck that I am planning to play at my next Skirmish, which is Blitz. So with that, let's get started. So we already talked about Cindra before. The only difference here is she's 20 health instead of her normal 40. Still has the same ability to make the fealty and get the daggers back. Our equipment has changed a little bit. The main core things are still here. Mask of Momentum giving us a free card draw. Kunais to be the main things we use with Cindra, of course. Flick Knives to threaten those hits on chain as well as get poke damage through with our daggers and Cindra's ability. And Blood Splattered Vest, which is definitely just the choice here. We plan on being a lot more aggressive in this version of Cindra. You're not saving these for big power plays like you are in the constructed version of the list. We're planning on using Blood Splattered Vest more liberally to get many turns where we just want to play our whole hand out. Since this format's a lot faster, we just need to win as soon as possible. There's not as much time for us to set up fealty tokens. Of course, we still want to. We're still on Art of Dragon Blood, on Art of Dragon Fire. We still need to use it to play our non-draconic cards during our Oath turns. But fealty are definitely less common in this version of the deck. And then the final thing is Snapdragon Scalers. I am on Dragon Scaler Flight Paths in the sideboard, mainly for more decks that we need to block a little more. But Snapdragon Scalers can save us from having a bricky hand. If there's ever a hand we get where it's like double Blaze Headlong, Hot on Their Heels, Burning Blade Dance, we don't have something to open our turn up with other than maybe like pitching a Blaze Headlong to a dagger. And sometimes that is what you end up doing, but other times where you need to be aggressive, you need to get those cards out of your opponent's hand by threatening your mask triggers, you'll want to just play a Blaze, pop the snaps, and then keep going. Which is why we're on the Snapdragon Scalers, especially in Blitz, because it's so fast, the games are so much more volatile, you'll need to keep tempo every single turn. If we take a look at the main deck, it is pretty similar to the constructed version of the deck. We'll just run through it really quickly. Of course, we're still on Ancestral Empowerment because it is a free card that just lets us go through our deck, helps us threaten mask triggers. Notably, we are not on Drop of Dragon Blood. The reason for that is because there are less 1-cost cards in this deck. We are only playing 5 1-cost cards and our 1 3-cost card. It's not like we're playing, 9 1-cost cards, or they play 12 1-cost cards. They play a lot more inside of the constructed version of the deck. We're even cutting down on Art of Dragon Fires. We're not playing the set of 2 in this list. So we are on less things we need to actually pay for, so Drop of Dragon's Blood is a little worse. But Ancestral Empowerment still helps us get through our mask triggers. 2 Art of Dragon Blood still, because it's one of the better things to use our Draconic fealty tokens on, because it just can make the rest of our turn cheaper if we have it plus a Breaking Point or a Hunt the Hunter. Only 1 Art of Dragon Fire, because generally 1 will be enough to win a game, but also it is harder to get things Draconic. There are less fealty generation, so you'll generally only make 1 a game at most. From the games I've played, 2 is really good if you can get 2 fealty tokens. So you'll have to depend on brands to actually get the Art of Dragon Fire through with its effect. So only 1 I felt was worth it. A Two Blaze Headlong because it's just a 0 for 4, pretty simple. I was originally trying Cut Through in this deck, but the problem with Cut Through is that it isn't a Draconic card. So you can, yes, Cut Through, flick a dagger to have it be your starter, but you need Draconic starters mainly. So it's better to play a Blaze and snap it to be that starter than to just have a Cut Through and then still not be able to do the rest of your turn. Which you would have to start with one of these, like Burning Blade Dance, and you wouldn't get the bonus hit effect, which sometimes you can still do. You still have to do, but it's just better to use the Blaze and then save your room for other things. Like if I'm going to have that same turn, I'd rather like snatch a Snapdragon Scalers to open or something. Or snap a Snatch to open. You know what I mean? Brand of Cinderclaw, of course, at the 2 red, 2 yellow. Mainly because, again, fealties are harder to get. Lets us turn our other things that need to be Draconic. Also lets us play things through Oath of Loyalty. Probably just the best card in Cindra, honestly. 2 Breaking Point, just because it's a disruption piece. Again, the constructed version of the list plays it pretty obvious why it's here. Arsenal in Blitz doesn't happen too often, but generally when it does, you're going to probably punish your opponent pretty big, and this card makes them spend cards from their hand to keep their arsenal or just lose the arsenal. Burning Blade Dance, just a good 0 for 3/3 block. If they do take the hit, they get hit for an extra 1 damage. Pretty simple effect. Display Loyalty, the best way to make fealty tokens for the deck, just because if it's actually triggering getting its go again, you'll just make it right away. Fire Tenant Strike First is just a 0 for 4 pretty much. Yes, it's not Draconic, but it is just a very good card. The constructed version of the list plays it. Hot on Their Heels, just for an extra marking effect. Again, really powerful for the deck because it's another on-hit they probably want to block that you can just trigger really easily if you do get the mark because you have Flick Knives. Hunt the Hunter as, again, another effect that the constructed list plays. One of the better ways to make the actual fealty tokens. We are notably on 2 of this and only 1 of Art of Dragonfire. The constructed lists play less Hunt the Hunters than Art of Dragonfire, but we're on that specifically because having fealty, making the deck more consistent, is a little more important than having the pop-off of the Art of Dragonfire. I'd rather make the fealty, so if on a later turn we get an Oath, I can then play something like a Ravenous Rabble or a Snatch through it, and not have the fealty and then just have dead cards in my hand on those Oath turns. Ignite is just, again, played a lot. We do play 4 1 cost, this 3 cost, and then the Art of Dragonfire if we can make that Draconic. So it does actually work well with its discount, as well as in Blitz, you are generally going to be swinging your daggers a little more than in the constructed version of the deck. So Ignite, discounting your dagger, letting you get that extra chain link for some effects is just very nice. Lava Burst is just a good chain ender, 0 for 5, really good. Lava Vein Loyalty just for another good go again effect. We are already on the Ronin Renegade, the Brand of Cinderclaw, and the Rising Resentment, so the other 3 head jabs from the Uprising set that Fi had access to were already playing, so we still need the Lava Vein Loyalties just for that extra consistency. Oath of Loyalty, just because it's a 0 for 4/3 block, really good in the new Draconic Heroes. Ravenous Rabble, because we only have 2 yellow cards in this deck, so it's generally going to be a 0 for 4. Rising Resentment, because it's actually relevant on hit in this list, unlike Fi, who just really played it because it was a head jab, and sometimes you got value. This one lets us actually play things like Hunt the Hunter, Breaking Point for that 1 less resource, which is pretty big. Ronin Renegade just as a Draconic starter, head jab, pretty obvious. Snatch, because we are on Snapdragon Scalers. Snatch is a card that comes out a lot. The rest of this deck is kind of important to see how the deck runs, but Snatch is just like an extra greedy piece. So this will generally come out versus some matchups. Some matchups you'll keep it in and still bring in the D-Reacts, but Snatch is just that extra greedy attack that can help us keep arsenals for bigger turns or play extremely big turns if we use our snappies on them. And then the last card in the deck is Wrath of Retribution, just because it's a very big power card in this deck. If we can play it before we swing our daggers, we get 2 dagger swings plus then the flick into a 3rd dagger swing, making this card pretty much a 0 for 9 if we can actually play it without using our daggers, which is very powerful. And I guess 10 from the Flick Knives, 1 damage, but that's the Flick Knives and not this card. So really powerful. I really like this card in this list. Sometimes I do end up playing it for 1, having to flick a dagger to play it, but that's still perfectly fine. This is just a very powerful. Even then, in those situations, it's like a 3 for 7, which is still very, very good. Finally, the inventory for the deck. Arcane Lantern as our 1. Arcane Prevention. Just the constructed list plays this one because the rest of the equipment's so important. They do play Spellfray Leggings in the CC list, but I don't think those are very important here. Flick Knives, Blood Splatter Vest, so important for the deck, same as Mask of Momentum. The Shoe is the only other spot we could replace, but because the Go Again is needed to help the deck run on brick turns, we can't really swap out the Shoe. It's way better to leave out one of the daggers. And then Dragon Scalar Flight Paths, as I already said, for the other equipment piece, this will come in versus decks you need to block a little more, something that your life total pretty much matters into. When this comes in, I generally am going down the snatches. So any matchup where you do go down snatch, do consider the Dragon Scalar Flight Paths because this is the main target for these. Everything else can be targeted if we want a bigger turn, as well as this works better with something like Wrath of Retribution, giving us an extra dagger swing. But mainly, since this can't target snatch, we're playing this a little differently. We're playing this on bigger turns, which you can use the snaps for. We're playing this on bigger turns where you might have two chain enders that don't have Go Again, like 2 lava bursts, or a lava burst and a hunt, or a breaking point, something like that. But it does give us that 1 block, so we can use it to stop some hit effects. And then for the rest of our inventory, just 2 D-Reacts. Wax On for any aggro mirror. Anything like Aurora, which probably will be pretty big this season, considering she's like one of the most dominant constructed decks in the format. She's got so many new cards, and she's an aggro deck, so she has that Blitz aggro advantage. As well as any Cindra matchup, any other ninja, you'd probably want the Wax On into, since most of the cards cost 0. Any matchup like that, you're going to want the Wax On for, just as a 0 for 5 block. And then finally, 2 Shelter from the Storm, just for some arcane prevention if needed, but just a good 0 for 4 D-React. If you don't have these, you can play Sink Below instead. But that's going to be it here. A pretty quick one, mainly because we already went over Cindra a little bit before a few weeks ago. I just wanted to get out a pretty quick Blitz video for anyone who is looking for a Blitz deck to play this skirmish season. I believe it started last week, but there are still a few more weeks left. So if you have a Blitz skirmish coming up, Cindra might be the deck you want to bring out. Cindra is very good versus decks that don't want to block you because you're getting so much more value from the Mask of Momentum, versus decks that do want to block you. Things like Florian, any other defensive deck. Florian, I think, is going to be the main one that you have to worry about for defensive decks. You have enough cards to push over them. You have Ancestral, you have your Flick Knives. You can set up a bigger turn with something like Wrath of Retribution. So you can have those powerful games versus those defensive decks as well. And you can still punch over their defenses every turn repeatedly, hitting them for 2 or 3, trying to get your mash triggers by flicking dives and just landing straight attacks that they might not be able to block. So even into those matchups, you have a pretty good game. But with that, that is going to be the end of the video. Next week, we might take a look at some LL lists, but if not, we'll take a look at another class constructed list for probably something that got updated in the set. Not quite sure what just yet. Possibly Aurora, because that hero is beyond broken, beyond belief. So anyway, I hope you all had a good day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.